If you think all dash cams are basically the same, the Vueroid S1 will make you think again. It doesn't just record, it observes, reacts, and quietly protects your car in ways you notice over time. And today we'll start with installation, then hit the on-road experience, low light handling, and the parking features that actually work. If you want more than just a camera on your windshield, this is worth a closer look. Let's get started. So when you open the box, you immediately see this is not a minimal setup. You get a front and rear camera, and together they already give you full coverage of what matters most on the road. There is also support for an optional interior camera if you want to expand the system later. And then, as you start setting it up, you realize it wants a bit of commitment. The rear cable is around 20 feet, which is helpful, but you still need to route it carefully. So yes, it takes time, and you do need a bit of patience here. Now the front unit itself feels solid. Not too heavy, but it has enough weight to feel durable, which matters because it will sit on your windshield under heat for long hours. And the mount is adhesive-based, so once you stick it, it stays there. Because of that, it feels stable, but at the same time, it is not meant for switching between cars. So overall, setup is not quick, but once it is done, it feels integrated, not temporary. Once you start driving, the front camera quality is the first thing that stands out. It records at 4K, which is 2160p, at 60 frames per second, and that combination shows up clearly in real use. During the day, footage looks sharp, road signs are readable from a distance, and small details like lane markings and textures stay visible. But more importantly, motion feels smooth. That 60 frames per second keeps everything controlled when cars pass, or when you change direction quickly, so when you pause footage, you actually get usable frames instead of blur. Now, if you switch to 30 frames per second, you unlock a different set of features. This is where HDR and IPC come in. HDR, or High Dynamic Range, improves the balance between bright and dark areas, so scenes with strong contrast look more detailed and controlled. IPC, which stands for Infinite Plate Capture, builds on that HDR processing, but is specifically tuned for capturing license plates more clearly, even in tricky lighting. The trade-off is that overall image quality can take a slight hit, since the focus shifts toward plate visibility. You can also set these modes to run all the time or only during specific periods, depending on how you want the camera to behave. Also, the field of view is around 151 degrees, which feels balanced. It captures nearby lanes without stretching the image too much, so it stays natural to look at. Now, when you move into night driving, this is where most dash cams struggle. But here it holds up better than expected. It uses a Sony Starvis 2 sensor, and you can tell it is working to keep the scene visible. You still see cars clearly, road edges stay defined, and highlights are managed with some control. Headlights can still be strong, but they do not completely wash out everything around them. The image processing also helps balance exposure, so darker areas keep some detail instead of turning into a flat shadow. It is not perfect in very low light, but overall it stays usable, which is what matters most. Since this is a dual-channel setup, it is important to understand how the front and rear cameras work together. The front camera handles the main detail with 4K recording, while the rear camera captures what is happening behind you, giving you complete coverage during driving. In this 2-channel setup, performance stays more balanced compared to a full 3-camera configuration. And if you prefer smoother motion across both views, you can switch to a 30 frames per second setup, where the front records at 4K 30 frames per second and the rear runs at a higher frame rate as well, giving you more consistency across both angles. There is also support for an optional interior camera, but even without it, the front and rear combination already covers the most critical areas for everyday driving. So instead of trying to do everything at once, this setup feels focused, giving you clear footage where it matters most. Parking mode is where this system starts to feel more complete. Instead of just turning off when you park, it gives you different options. There is time-lapse recording at about 1 frame per second, motion detection that records only when something happens, and an extreme low power mode that uses less than 2 milliamps. In that low power state, the camera can stay active for long periods without draining the battery too much. And if an impact occurs, it wakes up in less than 1 second and starts recording immediately. That quick response is important because it means you do not miss the moment. There are also built-in battery protection settings, including power-off voltage and low-power mode entry timing. These let you control how the dashcam behaves based on your car's battery level, so it does not drain it beyond a safe point during longer parking periods. Beyond that, the system gives you a deeper level of customization. Depending on whether you prioritize buffered recording or longer parking protection, you can fine-tune voltage thresholds and timing settings to decide if the camera shuts down completely or continues running in extreme low power mode after normal parking recording. Then there is geofencing, which lets you set zones like your home or office. Within those areas, parking mode can turn off automatically, and outside them, it turns back on. So over time, it starts to match your routine without needing manual input. Heat management is another area where this device feels prepared for real conditions. It is rated to operate up to 65 degrees Celsius, which is still quite high. Instead of shutting down under heat, it shifts into a low power state to protect itself and then resumes normal operation when needed. So you still have coverage even in extreme environments. The file system also plays a role here. It is designed to prevent corruption if power cuts suddenly, so your recordings stay safe. In daily use, there were no issues with lost or damaged files, which adds confidence. So now let's talk about the AI part. There is license plate restoration, which sounds fancy, but in real use, it works best when the footage already has some detail. If a plate is slightly blurry, it can clean it up, but if it is too far gone, it will not magically fix it. Also, you do not get results instantly. You have to process it through the app, and that takes a bit of time. So this is more like a backup tool, useful when you need it, but not something you rely on every day. Then there is privacy blur. This one is simple. It hides faces and license plates automatically. And if you ever plan to share footage, this becomes very useful without extra editing work. After a few days, using it becomes part of your routine. You connect through Wi-Fi, transfer files easily, and since everything is saved in MP4 format, playback works on almost any device. Power options are flexible as well, since you can use the car's power or USB-C, which helps if you want extended parking coverage through a power bank. However, the app becomes an important part of the experience, especially for AI features and deeper settings, so it is not completely hands-off, but it stays manageable. In the end, this dashcam goes beyond just basic recording. The image quality is strong, with crisp 4K at 60 frames per second, and the front and rear setup gives you solid coverage around the car. But more than that, what really stands out here is reliability. Because at the end of the day, image quality only matters if the camera is actually there when something happens. Whether the car is parked under the sun, sitting overnight, or left unattended for long periods, this is a system designed to keep recording without missing the moment. From its heat handling to its parking mode and power management, everything works toward that one goal, making sure you always have the footage when you need it. And that is really what a dashcam is supposed to do. You never know when an incident might happen, so it has to be ready in any situation. Once this is installed and set up, it quietly does its job in the background, so you don't have to think about it. If you just want something simple, it might feel like more than you need. But if you want something you can rely on every single day, this is where it really starts to make sense. That was all. Thanks for watching. If you found it helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more videos. And don't forget to share your experience in the comments.